How is everybody today? Happy almost Father's Day. Please, you know, to all the, I got
You're the leader. You're the leader in everything.
right? It's, yeah. Oh man, I'm telling you. Yeah, I remember before I had kids where I was like, you know, we should just have twins, just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
Right? I think lots and lots of people who have kids, like that's the first thing that they think. They're like, hey, I know I'm gonna have two. Let's just do it this way. I don't wish it. I love the boys and I don't wish it on anybody, man. It is freaking hardcore. So, but they are awesome. So, David, happy Father's Day. Oscar, first Father's Day-esque sort of thing. So congratulations, right? Please give hugs to all the other father lovers in the room, you know. So we've got that. And stuff. So today's going to be, we had a bunch of folks that were traveling and doing different things. So couple things. One is we've got AA'z night this next Wednesday night. And there should be a significant number of people here, so it's a good opportunity to plug some people in. So excited about that. The convention, we have the 4th of July is a Saturday. And so there's no meeting with that. So we're kind of figuring that. So there will be no meeting on the 4th of July, so we'll be in touch before then and stuff like that. Let's start with this. Okay. So, a couple of things. One is we have a new license in the house, so congratulations, Mr. Jose Antonio Gomez.
What's up, Tony?
Jose Antonio and his buddies. We had our first go back last night or yesterday. We're helping her on Wednesday. She's coming. Got a new recruit that's coming. They're gonna have 4 or 5 people. Things are blowing up for Mr. Jose Antonio Gomez. All right. So this morning we're gonna go back to the future, right? We're gonna have a little bit of I forgot something. So we've been talking, and the second half of this meeting is gonna get back to kind of where our focus is and stuff like that. But what I want to do this morning is I kind of want to remind us as to why we're doing what we're doing, right? So there's the theory of this, okay? So in all reality, right, if we talk about this, guys, this is a theoretical concept, right? I mean, it's a true theoretical concept, but we're talking about an abstract idea. We're talking about the fact that the wealthy have access, that the not so wealthy, right, have access, and Main Street families are taking on the world alone. Like, this is an abstract idea. We're talking about, you know, the principles of, you know, locking in advances, about not starting over, and habits and experts. Like, they're real, deliberate and direct, and sort of abstract, right? Because if someone sat down and said, okay, like, how do you get paid to do this, or what are you actually doing? Like, this is kind of theoretical at the same time, right? Now, we do level term insurance, and so we get paid on that, but our focus is the principles and the impact of what we're doing, and we're using everything there. And I'm good with that, but every once in a while, I think it's good if we go back to let me hold on to it so that I can actually see something that we're doing. Does that make sense? So we're going to talk about, I'm going to ask a question. Now, Wendy, you've never seen this before, so I'm going to have this conversation with you, okay? Is that fair? So let's say, because obviously we talk a lot about the value of sin. How cool is this? Like, I love this Elmo. It's like my favorite thing. Like, this is the coolest thing ever, right? But, right, so we sit there and say, so I'm going to talk to you. If we don't save any money, there's going to be a problem. Like, we know in your future, at some point, you're going to need money. True? So we either have it or we don't when we need it. The best thing to do is to save it when we have it so that when we need it, it's there. So I'm going to talk to you about a place that's incredibly big and powerful and very, very popular to save your money. It's got 5 rules in it. And all I want you to tell me is if you like them and which one you like the best. Is that fair? So the first rule says they're going to keep all your money for the first 2 to 5 years. So let's say you're sending them $300 a month every month for the next 24 to 60 months. And at any time, your balance is 0. They're going to keep that forever. Does that sound good? Does it? You're going to pay them $300 a month, and at the end of the month, you have no money. They kept it.
And no.
It's theirs.
No.
It's not yours anymore. It's theirs. Is that good?
No.
They're going to ultimately, once you get past that, they're going to give you a 1 to 4% rate of return on your money. Now, inflation's 3, so if they give you 1 or 2, your money's going backwards. The power of your money is going backwards. Does that sound good? If you want your money after the first 2 to 5 years, a little bit of interest, if you want it, you're gonna pay them 6 to 8% to borrow out your own money. Does that sound good? If you want the money to borrow out after the first 2 to 5 years and they give you a little rate of return and you're willing to pay them 6 to 8%, they have up to 6 months to give it to you. So if you need the money as an emergency today, they'll get it to you before Christmas. And at some point, you're going to die, right? I mean, we don't get out of here alive. This is going to happen. If you die and you have your money in this account, they keep it. Your family doesn't get it. I got a question. Which one of these rules do you like the most? Do you like any of them?
Do I have to pick one?
No. I mean, you could say none. Okay. Now, let's just say, hypothetically, you had your money here. What do you want me to tell you? Let's say your parents were saving for college or retirement here. Would they want to know?
Yes.
If you found out, is there anyone that could convince you, once you found out that these rules were real, is there anyone that could tell you and convince you that those were good rules?
No.
If you found out that you could move, how soon would you want to get out?
Yes.
Yes. Cindy, have you seen this before? Okay. Have I already seen this before? David, you seen this? You know kind of what we're talking about? First conversation, right? So, now, the reality though, right? Because you've never seen this before. There's no way this exists, right? Like, I mean, in all reality, like, there's no way. Right? Like, there's no way people sat in a room and said, we're going to create a product that convinces people to save money with us, that we actually keep it. We keep it in the beginning, we keep it in the middle, and we keep it in the end, and they're going to celebrate us. There's no way that people are that smart and people are that dumb. Right? Like, this is make-believe. We just spent the money to build these, and this is like just, I had extra space, so we just made something up here, right? See, Plan A actually, this Plan A, right? This actually exists. This is what is called cash value life insurance. Every once in a while, people are like, God, seriously, why do I gotta get my life insurance license first? Like, why? Like, I don't want to, I tell my family life insurance, I'm like, oh, life insurance. Well, one, the most important first step that we can do is we got to lock in our advances, right? We've got to make sure that if something happens to us, our kids don't go backwards. We cannot build on a generation if we're not here to build on it. And so making sure that we've locked in those advances is the single most important first step. It's no more important than the second step. It's just first, right? One's not more important than 2. You just can't get to 2 until you do 1. We don't get to 1 and stop. That's called a landing, right? We're getting this. These are steps that we're building. They're all critical. It's just one by one by one. So I'm going to show you why I'm here. I got in the business at 22 years old. I was $24,000 credit card. Didn't know anything about money. Right? Found out that my college savings program was here. Right? Wasn't real thrilled about that. And I went on an appointment. Actually, that's not true. I didn't go on this appointment. I scheduled this appointment, but I wasn't allowed to go on this appointment. Because this appointment was with my now ex-wife, my girlfriend at the time's family. And so set it up. So my trainer went in, and I've gotten permission to still show this, right? He's no longer with us, so I can show this with names and stuff like that. But this is actually a copy of my father-in-law's retirement account. When we sat down, now I've been here 19 years. This is still the single worst policy I've ever seen in 19 years. It was through a company called Farmers. We've all heard them. Right? With it, Farmers New World was that, right? That's the process, right? And he had what's called a participating graded premium whole life insurance. Now, I got to tell you a story about Ken. Ken, an amazing man. Ken was a business owner. Ken dealt with semi-precious stones, predominantly tanzanite. Had mines in Africa, like he did. Had an office down in the jewelry district and stuff like that. Okay, Ken understood jewelry, and so Ken's retirement was in his inventory, right? Because you can't make any money if you don't have inventory. So when you get into that, it becomes, I don't care if it's real estate, I don't care what it is, but it was inventory of money. And so he didn't save any money. He didn't believe in saving any money because he's like, hey, that money can't make enough money. I could take the money that I would save and I could go buy more, buy another mine, and that's going to create and take care of my future. The only thing was, Ken was from Iran. Ken knew a guy that was from Iran that worked for a financial services company that said, we want to make sure that you have your backup plan. And so this was Ken's sole retirement account. Because this is what you do. Okay? So let's go through. Let's see how this works. So a couple things, and we won't actually have to get past page 2. So I'm not gonna, normally we'd start here, but I'm gonna start back here because whenever I show page 2, there's really no need to get any further. But I just want to be able to show you, right? Loan interest rate, right? You can say just so we get this process right and stuff like this, right? That says the loan interest rate is for how much? 8%. So that's, we talked about that right over here, right? 8%. Right. So if you want your money, you're going to borrow it out in the form of a loan, and they're going to charge you 8% to borrow out your own money, which doesn't sound very good. Okay, so let me get the dates on this thing right, because I want to make sure that I've got this. This is 1989. Okay, so 1984, little story that's important to know about this. In 1984, Ken bought a $400,000 policy. In 1989, his business was doing better, and so he went back and he's like, I'm doing better, I guess I should save some more money. And the guy said, okay, we're going to start you over, and he now gave him $1 million policy. He didn't add to the $400,000 policy. He didn't do a rider. He didn't do anything like that. He started a brand new policy, and that'll be relatively important here later. But he now has a $1 million policy in 1989. So death proceeds. So it says the death proceeds will be the proceeds payable upon one, the principal sum, which is his death benefit, $1 million, and 2, any amount payable under the terms of any riders attached to this policy for which premiums are shown on the policy specification page. Okay, Wendy, does it say if he dies he gets a Ferrari?
No.
If he dies, does he get a Ferrari? Does it say if he dies he gets any money in a savings account? If he dies, does he get any money in the savings account? Is this not crazy? Well, it doesn't say he doesn't. You're right. Does it say he gets a Ferrari? No. When they list in contract law, when you list what you get, you only get what is listed. Right. Does this make sense? So, if there's a savings component to this, does he get it if he dies? No. So what do they do with the money in the savings? They keep it. So far, so bad. All right. So let's just get to it. All right. There are two bad pages to this one. All right. So let's start here. Okay. So we're going to go through and kind of read some of this stuff. Premiums are due payable. Okay. So it started at, just so you go, $3,248 for $1 million of coverage in 1989. I don't remember Ken's age at this time. Okay, but it's there. Okay. Now, what happens is the guy says, we got a specific, very special program for you. Because I know your business is doing better, so I want to make sure that you have a place where you're saving more money as your business grows. Sounds good, right? If your business is more profitable, should you save more money? Right? And is it easy to not save money? Yeah, so we're going to build it in where you're just going to save money. You with me? So the first year it's $3,200. The second year it's $3,600. Then $4,000, $44,000, $49,000, $54,000, $59,000, $64,000, $69,000, $75,000, $85,000, $11,000, $14,000, $20,000 a year, $27,000 a year, and it's going to get to a fact where it's $35,000 a year for his retirement account. The problem is, if he dies, does he get anything from the retirement account? He died in the 15th year. He wasn't able to work for the last 2 years I supported him. Would he have been able to pay $27,000 a year? So what would have happened to this policy?
Less.
So now he's paid for 15 years, $150,000, doesn't have any money, and is going to die. So he didn't have any savings, and he wasn't going to have any insurance. See, we talk about the abstract. This was my family. So how many of you just look at this and you're like, oh, this sucks? Would you like to see this is bad. Would you like to see what makes it the single worst policy I've ever seen? We're going to keep that with me back here in a second. Okay, here's 44. So what this is, this says, okay, so how much is in the cash value? There's what's called paid up life or extended life, where you can take the money and you can sell it back to them for a period of time. But this basically shows, this first column will show you how much money they have in their savings. So the first year, he paid $3,200 for his insurance and his savings, right? Let's go down here to 44. Can you all see that? How much money's in there? See that little, we're going to look at this number. Okay, let me do it this way, it'll be better. Okay, so how much money does he have in his savings? He paid $3,200, $3,248. How much money does he have in his savings account at the end of the first year? Zero. How about a second year? His third year? His fourth year? His fifth year? Now over here, did we say they keep the money for the first 2 to 5 years? We didn't like that rule. At the end of year 5, he's paying $4,900 a year. How many think $5,000 is real money? $4,900 a year, zero money in the savings. His only retirement account. Now here's the thing, remember 5 years earlier, or 84, yeah, so 5 years earlier, he had this exact same policy, but for $400,000. And so what they did was they took all the money that was in the savings. How much was in the savings? Zero. And started him over. Okay. But it can't get much worse, right? So there's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 20,000, $388 paid into his savings account. How much money is in his savings account? $27,000. $35,000. At the end of his 19th, at the end of the 18th year, he would have $19 or $19. His sole source of retirement, sole breadwinner, trusted somebody from his community. He was a professional. He was an expert at semi-precious stones. That was his job. We're getting really good at learning how to cultivate and develop relationships. That's phenomenal. There is a responsibility with that because people are going to listen to us. What we do isn't little. And for every once in a while, people are like, well, maybe that was a one policy. Here's American Income Life. We can go through. The numbers are different and the exact same. Sorry, we lied. It said a 1 to 4% rate of return, and this one they're giving 5%. But the policy loan is what? 8%.
So they're not afraid to show these to people because people they don't know how to read these.
By law, they have to give them to you. But if I handed you this, guys, here's the thing. I could hand you a policy right now. And most of you couldn't find the rules if you're looking for them. Because you're not an expert at it yet.
What if I turn that one in and she wants more information? Should I just show her?
You can go through them. And the great thing about term insurance, it says this: you pay, you die, we pay. Like, that's our rule. Like, if you have a 30-year term, you pay your premium and the premiums stay level for 30 years. Like, it's not any more complicated. If you have a 10-year term, then it's for 10 years, and it goes from that process. Sorry, so what?
No, I mean, a lot of times we think this isn't still happening. I picked up 3 policies from a friend of mine yesterday. He wanted to have money for his grandkids, so I wanted to start saving for him. So what the person in the community did for him was he gave him 3 life insurance policies on each one of his grandkids. Which means that if he passes away, the grandkids are getting nothing. They're just paying into these policies. These are if the kids pass away, the mom gets something. It has nothing to do with it at all. But it was sold so that his grandkids could have something. And these were sold last year, and I picked them up yesterday.
It's crazy. It's crazy. They'll do. And so I look at this, and you know, one of the rules that said keeps money for the first 2 to 5 years. Like, no, see, look, Brett, you're wrong. The very first year, they got $60. They're paying. How much did they pay in? Their premium is only $100. This is a small policy. This premium's only $12 a month, and the end of the year, they've got $60. That's not bad. But there's something you might be missing. It's the 4th year.
The first 3 years deeper.
Oh, they started it.
They started it at year 4.
They skipped on one. So they want to do zeros.
This is in your community, in your household, whether it's $1 million policy or a $10,000 policy, whether it's $3 grand a year or $100 a year, it doesn't matter. There's They're screwing over the people in our lives. This is an abstract idea, and it's incredibly powerful. It's real, it's important, it's legitimate, it's what we do, it's what we're building, it's going to change a tremendous amount in this country. But the tangible of what we do is incredibly real. When Ken passed, I delivered a death claim. It made sure that my former mother-in-law didn't have to worry. This wasn't theory. Guys, what we're doing is real. Yeah.
Yesterday, I went to the HR department at work, and I just started that new job. And she says, I need the proof of your social. So I brought it in, and I went in there, and I said, by the way, do you have a 401k here? She goes, no, you don't. I bought my own on Fidelity Insurance and this and that. I needed to bring in like $3,500 so I can start it. And she says, I'm telling all of the employees here that they should get their own. And I was like, so,
There's the door. There's develop a relationship and someone for them to talk to, because that's enough. Guys, there's so much. No one knows this stuff. We take this so much for granted. It's easy to go, God, we're getting so focused on this and the theories and all the stuff and the language, and all of it's critical. But the impact of what we're doing, right? The family in Tony said, we're setting up college accounts. We're setting up a retirement account. We're setting up, like, there's so, like, guys, no one is doing this for this family. Nobody. But us. And we could have run a million commercials. She's never picking up the phone. There was one way that family is getting help. Tony. One way. Actually, Tony's mom. Which is the way it's supposed to be. Fun. So we haven't gone old school in a little while, but I think that this is a fun thing to drive me crazy. Trust me, it's in your house, it's in your family, it's in, right? It was in Camacho's bank account.
I was fighting with you that day. No, I'm gonna put my money in there.
David is like, that's not how mine works. And I go, great, I have a question. Can anyone convince you that this counts good once you know that these rules are here? No. I said, so if the rules are there, no one's going to convince you or me that they're good rules? Well, no, mine's not there. Totally get that it's not there. Why don't you do me a favor? Why don't you pop up and grab it real quick? Because yours might be the one that doesn't have it. He's like, yeah, my guy, I got this, man. I got my license. I'm taking care of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, yours even has 6 in there. You got an extra one.
That's sadly true.
So,
It definitely reminds us of why we're here.
Yep.
One of the many reasons.
it's the practical application of what we do, and we don't know. And look, I'm going to say this. The appointment that Tony and I went on yesterday, she's a Primerica client. She's a Primerica client that had no idea what she had. She's a Primerica client in the last 5 years. She's a Primerica client that had an insurance policy, didn't have a college, didn't have retirement, didn't have an F&A, had no idea, didn't even know what it was. She's a trusting person that got referred to someone, that someone sat down and she said, oh, we need it. She signed it and just has been paying for it with no idea what she had. Like, we spend a lot of time, you know, making fun and beating up other companies. Guys, our company's got as bad of a black eye. Now, look, they didn't have cash value, right? So she wouldn't throw in her money, right? So if she would have died in the last, but here's the thing, if she would have died in the last 5 years, Primerica would have delivered. But her now 7-year-old son was 2 when she started. Her now 2-year-old daughter wasn't born. If the person would have just taken $25 and started an education account, her older son, would have had more money than he has now. And if she would have started the $25, you know, college savings program with that, there's a really good chance that the daughter would have had a college savings program because she was like, I've got this for this, I've got to get this for this. I know the gentleman that wrote the sale, I know he's got a securities license. He didn't care because you don't make any money on $25 mutual funds. And so what he'd rather do is close her for a higher dollar amount on the life insurance than the right premium and the difference in savings. That's our company. That's not this room. That's not what we do and why we do it. If we're going to close this gap, then we got to stand up for what that actually means. That means I need everybody in this room to get their doggone securities license and start taking it seriously. For those of you that aren't, we might want to think about it. Those of you who are, buckle in and we'll just take the next step. I know it's not easy. Look, we all have lives. We all have crazy things that are going on, right or wrong. And I know it's hard. But for this lady, if I don't have my securities license, it's 3 times harder to get those funds ready. Tony's going to be out on his own. David's out on his own. Cindy's out on her own. They go in, gather their stuff. Now they've got to get me or someone in to go write those funds. Well, there's Wade and I are the only ones in the big shop that have our securities license. If all of it, we start writing 25 life sales a month in the big shop and there's only me and Wade that are securities license, there are going to be some people that fall through the cracks. Yo no hablo. Wade definitely does not blow. Right? So now all of a sudden we have nobody in the base that speaks Spanish that can actually help somebody that desperately needs it. What's that? Call Stacy on Monday morning. How fun. How fun that because of what we're doing and the way we're doing it, we get to create an infrastructure that people want to make it. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So, all right. I'm excited. I'm fired up. So, the second half of this morning is a conversation about what we're doing. And so, do me a favor, everyone do me a favor, stand up for a second. Shake it out, shake out. So we just had financial services product conversation. We did some training, shake it out, right? This isn't complicated, right? Okay, right? So, because we want you to, okay, so go ahead, grab a seat there, right? Because the second half of this conversation is going to be about building a company. And what's easy to do, and probably the hardest thing about what we're doing, is building a company inside a financial services company and understanding that our priority is the building of the company and not the financial services company, that we're leveraging the financial services part, not doing the financial services part. That's one of the challenges in what we're creating. So I'm going to attempt to help us get our heads around this today. Because Castro and Associates doesn't exist. Gomez and Associates doesn't exist yet. So I'm going to start with this conversation. Are we building a distribution company with Primerica or a distribution company that leverages its strategic partners? So you go, well, what's the difference? See, if I'm building a distribution company, if I'm building my Primerica distribution business, because I'm building a business to distribute Primerica products, we only have one manufacturer, right, Cindy?
Right.
That manufacturer is Primerica. So technically, are we building a Primerica distribution company? Are we building a company designed to distribute Primerica products? It's a hard question. Are we building a business designed to move Primerica life insurance, PFS shareholder services, mutual funds, Lockwood managed accounts? Is that what we're doing? This is a hard question. That's why I started with the easy stuff. I wanted to warm you up this morning. Get you mad at the industry a little bit. Realize what's going on. But this is an interesting question. Because most people, when we recruit new people into the business, and they figure out how we get paid, they figure out that if you write a sale, you get paid. If you recruit somebody who writes a sale, you get. So then it's really easy to think that we're building a Primerica distribution company, right? A business designed to distribute Primerica products. Is that what we're doing? Because what we're doing is going to determine what we say, what we think about, how we think about it, how we frame it, everything that we focus on, what we prioritize, what we're creating. We could be here 10 minutes this morning, we could be here for an hour. I don't know. It's going to depend upon how this goes. Because I want at least 2 people in the room to have like a sonic boom click. I love everybody, but the bar might be too high for that. At least 2 people to go boom. Cindy, what's the problem?
70 million families are stuck and they don't know it.
Biggest challenge in this country, economically, 70 million families are stuck and they don't know it. What do we mean by stuck?
They're repeating their generations of information or non-information.
Is it helping? Is the work we're doing helping?
Yeah.
See how clear, how quick we're coming to this, and you know what you're talking about? Okay. So we're repeating our generations, right? 70 million families are stuck. Why are we stuck? But what does that actually mean? What are we repeating? The habits of what?
Starting back, going back and starting.
So the habits, I'm going to hug you guys, man. I'm telling you, I need to keep this up. We're making out. Starting over, focused on actions, validating from doing it themselves, isolating in chaos. 70 million families are stuck. What does it mean that they're stuck? They're repeating generational habits from generational habits. They're transferring a mentality to their friends and their children. What is that mentality? Constantly starting over, focused on actions to solve it, validating from doing it themselves, and isolating in chaos. So the world falls apart, they get together with their spouse, they go, don't tell anyone. We'll get through this. Hunker down. Then all of a sudden, something happens, and they're like, okay, it's sunny out, let's go. We'll figure this out. We've got to do this right now because we're starting from scratch. And they build it up a little bit because of raw energy, and they walk around proud of themselves because they figured they watched other people that couldn't figure it out, so they got the strength from it. And then guess what? The world happens, chaos occurs. What do? They isolate. All their work goes away because they got to start over. They hunker down and they repeat it from generation to generation. Does this sound familiar to any of us growing up? It's always a very surreal thing when we start watching these different mentalities. It's not a sum all, right? Other folks had, but as a class, and this isn't bad. I was raised, this isn't bad. Dude, I'll figure it out. I got no problems. I won't sleep. I got the business, I was 22, Oscar. Right? In 16 months, I had a business I was helping 40 sales of those, rating 40 sales a month at 23 years old. The average person in my business was 35 years old. I was 22, 23 years old. Why? I didn't sleep. I worked 15, 18 hours a day, create momentum, I go talk to anyone, do anything, didn't matter. You can outwork problems, and not that you don't make any money. But up until a very short period of time, I used to stand in a room like this and go, man, you guys understand? I would brag on this. This was a bragging statement I'm about to say. I want you to think about how absolutely moronic the sentence I'm about to say was. I've been paid $4 million in this company. Built the number one team in the country, produced the number one vice president, went out number one in the country, the number 5 vice president going out. Like, have had a lot of success. And David Camacho, when you were recruited, I stood in front of a room like this and said, man, you guys want to know this thing? Man, I've never licensed anyone I knew before the business. You don't need to do that. You don't worry about it. There's never been a person that I knew before the business that I've gotten licensed. That was a brag. I want you to think about allies, advocates, and associates. I want you to think about building a strategic partnership model. I want you to think about leveraging the experts in your life and cultivating the relationships. And what does it mean when one of the top producers in a company says, I've never licensed anyone I knew before the business, as a compliment? Wasn't failure. I made a shit ton of money. Wrote a lot of sales, helped a lot of people. But it doesn't mean that I wasn't living here. This isn't a judgment on smart or dumb. This isn't a judgment on good or bad. This isn't a judgment on successful or not successful. Lots of people would have considered me successful. The problem is that the business I built was built on thinking that was going to destroy itself. At some point. That's the generations. not happy. Most of us had relatively happy or really good, healthy, happy childhoods. Some did, some didn't. Some were good, some weren't. Loving families, not loving families. It has nothing to do with it. It has to do with our approach. Some of the most successful people I know, locked in advances, develop habits, leverage experts, cultivated strategic partnerships. When the world falls apart, how many of us have had chaos in our life? When we get in the habit of calling the experts in our life and say, this is happening and I'm scared, I'm uncomfortable, normally we don't do that because we're embarrassed at explaining whatever it is. If we have the people in our lives with the partnerships to be able to talk about it, there's lots of people that have navigated uncomfortable and challenging situations prior to us. We can either figure out the solutions on our own, which can we all agree takes time and energy, or we can use the same time and energy we had to create there, actually implementing a game plan that's already been thought out and created and duplicated. It doesn't mean that these people aren't smart and don't work hard, but the finite amount of time and energy either goes into creating it or running it. Bro, what are you talking about? We spent the last 5 years, Oscar, building the language. Cindy, we're now starting to get good at saying it. But for 4.5 years, did we spend any time practicing saying it? No. Why? Because what we were doing is creating it. You know why we were creating it? Because there wasn't an expert out there to go to. So we had to become it. But we had to create it. But the validation, at no point do I hopefully stand in here and go, you should all listen to me because I created this shit. No, this was a collaborative experience. It got created. We're going to leverage the partnership model. The validation is in how this was created. The validation is the fact that we're going to duplicate. Does this make sense? Why am I having this conversation? Amira, what's the problem?
70%. They don't know it.
Know it. David, what do you mean by stuck?
They really don't know. Starting over.
They're going to continue to repeat their generations. We're going to raise our kids in the things that we prioritize. Have you ever met a racist 3-month-old? Never seen a racist 3-month-old. You ever seen a racist 3-year-old? How does a child at 3 years old become racist?
From their parents.
Their parents sit down and say, you're not going to like blank? Is that what they say? You don't like them. Whatever you do, you don't like them? Is that what they say? Do they actually, do you think that's the conversation most are having with their kids at 3? They're sitting down and they're like, Johnny, you know, here, I know you're still in diapers, but we don't like these kind of people. Is that what, you think that's what they do?
No, they see what their parents are modeling.
They hear the conversations, they hear the words, they hear the actions, they hear the attitudes, they hear the this, the that, and the other. And I don't care what race it is, because everyone's got on one side, like there are racists on every group. We don't like these groups, or we don't like these groups, right? It doesn't matter. I've never seen a racist 3-month-old, but I've seen racist 3-year-olds. Why? Well, if we can teach something that stupid as believing that another human being is inferior simply for the color of their skin, if we can transfer that without ever having to teach it, what do you think we can do with our approach to money? Because there's nothing more unfounded than racism. There are really, really smart, fill in the race. There are really, really dumb, fill in the race. There are really, really nice, fill in the race. There are really, really mean, fill in the race. There are good athletes, bad athletes. There are good engineers, bad. It doesn't matter. They're people. Racism is the single stupidest thing ever. Because it's not founded on anything. If you take a white guy and raise him in the barrio, he's going to act and think the same way everyone in the barrio thinks. His skin color doesn't matter. Why am I having this conversation? Because if we can teach a 30-year-old to not like black people, or white people, or brown people, or yellow people, or green people, or black, for no good reason, just by modeling, what do you think we do economically? Because there's a stigma on being a racist in America today. If someone says the wrong word, the society shuns them. If someone spends more money than they make, society doesn't shun them. If people isolate in chaos, no one shuns them. If people emotionally start to overdose, there's no mechanism to fix this. You're all having Father's Day tomorrow. I want you to have something to think about and talk about. This is about expanding our brains here for a second. We spent the time on the pulse, so what we're doing is real. The UBEG is real. We're going to spend the last 15 minutes on scheduling appointments on what we're doing, so we're going to apply this. But guys, I want you to understand what it is we're doing. I asked the question, are you building a business, a distribution company, a business to distribute Primerica products? Because if you are, then we've got to make very specific decisions. What's the problem? 70 million families are stuck. Do you believe this? David, do you believe that this is a real problem?
Yes.
Okay. What is the solution? Tony. It's access. Access to the financial education and the tools that create wealth to get a family financially secure in one generation with an opportunity to get financially free in 2 to 3 generations, and access to a path to ownership for a shot to get financially free in 1. Access is the solution. Why is access the solution? Because if no one pokes us in the eye and walks us through the education of how we're approaching, are we ever going to change? If you're stuck and don't know it, are you ever going to get unstuck? How do you discover you're stuck? Someone has to show you. Look, there are a handful of self-taught people, I guess. There's some kids that can sit down at a computer, play the sounds, and know what it hears, and then hear something else, and they can play by sound. I am not one of them. There are a very small group of savants that have the natural ability to do certain things. Can we all agree most of us aren't them? Now, I can try 2 terry stems with my tongue, like, so that's pretty good, and tie them together and stuff like that. Like, that takes talent. I have talent. Right? But if we don't have someone introducing these ideas, we're not going to do anything about it. How many of us have ever had someone think that in our family, in our life, that life insurance is a luxury, and what do I care? I'm going to be dead. No, it's not what everyone thinks.
Everybody might.
It's what everyone in your family thinks. Thank you for illustrating the point. Elvira doesn't think that. Not anymore, huh? Why?
Because I see the importance of it.
You've been through this process. Look, I'm 41 years old.
I'm turning 30 this year.
Right? I have been blessed. And I hope to continue to be blessed. I have a really difficult time marketing long-term care. We sell it. We sell a pretty good product. Actually, we sell a really good product. Long-term care is for someone who's got a decent amount of assets, who's over 55 or 60 years old. Statistically, a husband or wife who's 60 years old, one of them will end up in a home, right? Home health care is incredibly expensive, right? So long-term care is really expensive, but nothing compared to what the need is. We have an aging population, a tremendously volatile system, right? And there's a huge need for this. Enormous need for it. And I have an incredibly challenging time marketing. I know it's important. I know it's valuable. I know the market. I have a challenge marketing. Why? Because I have zero exposure to it. No one in my family has ever needed it. I've never had to take care of an aging parent. I've never had to change diapers. I've never had to do any of that. I've never had to do any of that stuff. Does that make sense? And so for me, it's a theory. I know it's a true theory, but it's a theory. Does that make sense? I know other people that are 10 years younger than me that have lived this experience for 20 years. They get into a home and they're like, look, I know it's $4,000 a year, but you better figure it out, because if you know it's real, you talk from difference. Does this make sense? Well, for middle America, the way life insurance is real is someone died. Usually someone died and they didn't have it. That's not the space that they come from locking in advances. The space from locking in advances is, we had this and our kids could build on. It's a different mentality. The number of times I've had someone say, Sancho will take it. Literally, that sentence. Man looks at his wife, 2 kids, and says, if I get life insurance, her boyfriend's going to take it when I'm gone. That's a mentality. Is that a bad person? Is that a stupid person? No, that's an exposure concept, in my opinion. That's an ignorant thought process. By the way, ignorance is not a diss. I always want to say this, right? Every once in a while, right? You are all ignorant on something. I'm incredibly ignorant on several things. Ignorant is simply, I don't know. It's not a problem to acknowledge that you're ignorant, unless you get validation from yourself, and then you'll never acknowledge it at all, because you got to know all things at all times, and you got to do all that stuff, because that's where your validation comes from. See how this stuff starts to hit us in different places? Right? A little sensitive topic, but I'm going to have this because it's fun, because it's a funny joke in my house. So my ex-wife used to tell me, Brett, you always have to be right. You always have to be right. Always have to be right. And I looked at her, and I've said this for years, and I said this to my new wife, I've said this to my children, I've said this to anyone. Said, I'm only right about what I'm right about. But what I'm right about, I'm right about. Now that sounds like double talk, but it's not. And I saw Tony, and he looked at Wendy, and they said, I do the same thing. You can only do that if you absolutely own and honor what you don't know. If you have no problem saying, I screwed this up. I don't know how to do this. I'm not sure how to do this. I think we want to do this. And if you have the ability to speak in uncertainty but strength while you're figuring things out, once you figure stuff out, it's okay to come from strength on it. Because I only know what I know, but what I know, I know. I'm only right about what I'm right about, but what I'm right about, I'm right about. For 4 years, I stood in this room, Oscar said, I don't know how we're going to do this and this and this, but I know how we're going to do this. The access gap is a non-negotiable in my life because it's right. But until we had it, it wasn't right. We just were working on figuring out what it was going to be. Why did I tell you that? Oh, because it comes into this process. Sometimes I just want to share. I haven't shared for a little while. Someone's gonna tell Alicia. Somehow it'll end up. We'll be like, I heard you told people. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So the problem is 70 million families are stuck. Money, you get that? Got it? But it's not just that they're stuck. If we're stuck, we could get unstuck. Like, part of the problem is we're stuck, but it's only like a third. That's only a third of the problem. 2/3 of the problem is we don't actually know it. Now here's the crappy part. As soon as we know it, we still got to do the work it takes to get unstuck. Like, there's magic fairy dust that comes out our eyes. All of a sudden we're like, oh my gosh, I totally think like this. Now I'm going to think like this. That doesn't work that way. It's an all-in-all war to move from here to here. Why? Because there's multiple generations and everyone around us continues to do this.
And even when you are thinking like that, you sometimes slip back.
All the time. But one of the first habits you can develop is the habit of recognizing this without being critical. When you can celebrate the recognition of slipping back, this is the single most important habit of changing. Now, almost no one can do it. Why? Because they get validation from doing it themselves. So the moment they slide back, they feel bad about it, and they're trying to feel bad about it, so they isolate because they feel bad about it because there's so much validation that they weren't here. Because they really want to be over here. But then the more they want to be over here, the more they act like they want to be over here because they're trying to prove they're over here. So now they're proving that they're over here by acting over here. So they're validating that they're not over here by doing the choices that they're over here, and they're spinning. And every single one of us will do that. Often. And look, I know lots of rich people who do lots of these things, but their default position is here. This isn't about perfection. It's not about obedience, and it's not about perfection. If you can celebrate, and one of my favorite conversations is when I tell you all the stupid stuff I do. It's how we've taught absolutely every facet of this. How did we start this conversation? Can anyone remember how we started this conversation this morning? Remember? Huh? What do you say? Okay, but before that, what story did I tell? Huh?
Wait,
What story did I tell?
your ex-father?
Well, that was the policy. What sentence did I brag about?
But you not recruit anybody who didn't.
That I knew before the business. Guys, if you go back and watch every video of every conversation we've had over the last 4 years, 90% of the delivery will be based on showing my stupidity prior. Why? Because I've done lots of stupid things. But you know what? I don't care. Because the impact is significantly more important than the validation of being right. I didn't make this stuff up. This has been 20, 30 years of study and practice. We created the language so that we could describe it quickly and easily. So, y'all having fun? So we know what the problem is. What's the problem? Wendy, what's the problem?
70 million members stuff, and they don't know it.
Look at that. You guys understand? She's been here twice. You're going to go. Tony's going to hopefully go to the convention. And he's going to get into conversations that have been here 5 years. And people aren't going to be able to articulate what the actual problem is. After 5 years, they're going to have big old rings on their fingers with hundreds of thousands of diamonds, like rings for the diamonds. And they're going to be like, I have no idea what the actual problem is. And you've been here an hour. We know what the problem is. We know what the solution is. Right, Oscar? It's access. Access to the education and the tools, and a path to ownership. So I have a question for you. What are you building? Where does Primerica fit on this piece of paper? Are they anywhere up there? Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? If we're building a distribution company to market this, if we're building a business to distribute the products of Primerica, and Primerica is neither in the problem or the solution, then we might need to rethink what it is we're actually doing. Spoiler alert, we're not going to another company or starting another company, right? But it's important to know what we're doing. Because what we're doing is going to ultimately get you to be able to focus on what it is you're supposed to be doing. If Oscar doesn't know that they get, if Oscar's business, let's say for Verizon, they get a bonus for selling iPhones over Samsung. Apple pays them twice as much. Do they? Okay. Well, let's say they did. Okay. So let's say that was the case. They got paid $100 for every iPhone they sold and $50 for every Android phone they sold. Oscar's in the business of selling what? Phones. To make what? Money. That's your job, right? So, what's Oscar's job? To sell the best phone out there for the best person to make sure that he matches their needs and their products? Is that his job? No, what's his job? Sell iPhones. Right? You love your family. Same work, make $100 versus $50. They're both pretty good. Now, people argue with that. They struggle. Well, no, his job should be to sell the right phone for the right person because everyone's got different needs. But Oscar's got to align. If his mission is to make as much money as he possibly can for his family and provide the best service he possibly can to make sure that's there, and he makes $100 for an iPhone and $50 for an Android, he's selling iPhones all day long. Aren't you? Wouldn't you? Because if you want to sell an iPhone or an Android, like you can make the decision before the person, like you start talking, you know, like you can guide them to one or the other, right? If they haven't made that choice. One works, one's create, like they're different pieces with. You can have those conversations. You can do that. That's how this gets sold. They had term insurance and mutual funds. Right? Sue's process, they had college accounts. They could have done all sorts of different things, but they didn't. So, we know what the problem is. We know what the solution is. How do we do it? How do we provide the solution to solve the problem? We got 70 million people are stuck and don't know it. So how do we do it? What is the method in which we can actually do this? Hey, what's the method? The only method in American business to actually deliver this solution to solve this problem.
One generation.
The method is a strategic partnership model. It is literally the only way this can get done. Now that's a pretty bold statement. And Wendy, I don't expect you to believe for another 10 minutes. Okay. If there's a problem, because when I say this to folks, some people look at me, and I remember Robin looked at me, and because I told her this process a long time ago, and she's like, "Serious, shut up." I'm like, what? She goes, "You're telling me Primerica is the only financial services company that can help these people?" She said, "No, that's not what I said. There are hundreds of financial services companies that have the products and services for that group of people. Hundreds. Big ones, small ones. I am not saying that Primerica Financial Services is the only company in the industry that has the products and services to help that group of people change their thinking. They're not. We're not the only company with the products and services. But I will say, we are literally the only company in the industry that has a chance to save that group of people. How can both of those things exist at the same time? How can we not be the only company and be the only company at the exact same time? Cindy, how? You know the answer.
Does it have to do with our strategic partnership?
It does. Why? What about our strategic partnership is the only solution?
Primerica doesn't sell those products.
What's that?
Primerica doesn't give you the distribution to even sell a product that will mess you up.
Okay, so that's good. Primerica protects us from ourselves. Okay, but that you don't solve the problem by not creating the problem. So there's a difference between solving the problem and not creating more of a problem. But that is a valuable piece. If you have fungus on your toes and you're watching TV and you see a commercial for a toe fungal remover spray, do you pay attention?
Yes.
Why?
Because you got fungus.
Because you have fungus on your toes. If you don't have fungus on your toes and you hear a toe fungus removal commercial on TV, do you even hear the commercial?
You just say, dumb.
You go to the refrigerator, you go to the bar, you're on the phone, you're checking Facebook, you're doing a gazillion things. But if you have fungus on your toes and all of a sudden you're doing a gazillion things and you're like the new and reproved, the best ever, the toe fungal remover genie. You're like, let's go to CVS. I need the toe fungal genie. You're going to die broke. But you don't have to. If. And I'm never going to not die broke. Any solution to fix a problem you don't have or don't know you have, you won't pay attention to. Does this make sense?
That's where we have to get folks to be able to hear us.
So, why is the strategic partnership model the only way this problem can get solved? Guys, I really hope, like, this is not a little conversation today, so I'm hoping that you guys are digging in a bit and remembering, like, through this, because this is pretty big. You get this, your whole business shifts. This isn't, I didn't have anything else to do on Saturday. Remember, are you building a company that's distributing Primerica products? Everyone else in Primerica thinks they are. Problem. 70 million families are stuck and they don't know it. Solution is access. We have to figure out a way to deliver access to a group of people who need it but don't know it. What do the other financial services companies do? They put on fun commercials. Right? There was Snoopy, there was a rock, there's now the Farmers, I can't do it, but I can hear it in my head, right? It's a catchy little thing, Farmers University, all this other stuff, right? There's Chris Paul, the Assist King, there's all these like cool marketing things. Why do they spend that money? They spend the money for the few people who figure out that there's a problem and for them to say, I need to solve it, let me call the Chris Paul company. The pieces of gold on the ground. Will those companies ever solve this problem? Wendy, are people in your lives willing to spend $1,000 a year for a financial game plan for someone to sit down and map out their finances from month to month, year to year, and follow through that process? Will everyone in your community reach out, find the person, develop the relationship, pay them the money, and then follow their advice? Why? Because then I love their family? The idea is so foreign to the people we grew up with that it would be laughable. I'm going to pay, oh, you're going to help me with my money? I'm going to pay you $1,000 a year to have you help me with my money. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Tell me you wouldn't say that. You want to know who pays thousands of dollars a year for financial help? Well, they pay it because they have it. No. They pay it because they value it. There's a difference. Will this group of people pay it? Nope. So if you have all the tools in the world, but to provide those tools they have to pay, will they ever pay it? Nope. So all the financial planners in the world who make money charging that resource completely loses that group. They're done. So the people who actually might plan, if someone provided the tool to help them plan, the people who actually have the mindset are like, man, I would really like to do this, but they don't have the value of it, they won't pay the money for it. So they're gone. And everyone who doesn't know it's valuable doesn't even know that it's a problem. Does this make sense so far? We having fun? You know what the problem is, right, David? Know what the solution is? We know what the method is to solve it? Well, I've told you, but we don't know it yet. You're not quite convinced. Because right now it sounds like no one can solve it. We needed some components. To actually provide it, we actually need a company that has the products and services designed for that group, like David said, that doesn't screw people over. So this is an important component, isn't it? But let's say Primerica had the products and services and just spent a bunch of money on advertising. Is that group of people going to hear it? Why? They're stuck and they don't know. So can we walk up to them and go, "You're totally stuck, dude"? So this is an interesting part, right? We're like, okay, so we know what the problem is. We have the solution, but we have to get the people that have the problem to recognize it's a problem in order to discover the solution so that they can apply the solution. It's a fascinating conundrum. What are you good at? Are you good at, are you good at asset allocation, building portfolios, business administration, organizational structure, marketing and research? What are you really good at? People like you. I think you're really good at getting people to like you. You're really good at getting people to like you. You're pretty good at getting people to trust you. That's an interesting skill. It's not very marketable. Right? Go on a resume. Why should I hire you? Because people like me. Well, good. This isn't kindergarten. Like, awesome. I'm glad they like you. But can you do market research? No. Can you do asset allocation? No. Can you do build portfolios? No. Can you do prioritization and debt resources? No. Can you run mortality, morbidity rates? No. Can you run algorithms and processing? No. Can you organize structure? No. Can you run the administration? No. Can you do the follow game plans and the process and this and the accountability? No. But why should I hire you? Because I'm nice. Not a very marketable skill. But it's the only marketable skill. If you have a second skill. See, everyone who knows Elvira knows Elvira. That's a deep thought, isn't it? If they know Elvira and they spend time with Elvira, what's the likelihood of them chewing a lot of the same dirt, knowing a lot of the same stuff, thinking a lot of the same stuff as Elvira? So if Elvira recognizes that she's stuck, what's the likelihood of the people around her being stuck? So what if Elvira got really good at telling a story to the people around her that are stuck that she discovered she was stuck? Not that they're stuck. That she discovered she was stuck. If Elvira told the people in her life that she discovered she was stuck and how she was stuck and why she was stuck and the impact to her life and to her children's life from them being stuck and the path that she's taking to eliminate being stuck so that she can get her and her family getting unstuck, if she can get really good at telling that story to the people in her community and in her life that are probably what? Stuck and don't know it. But if she creates a safe space for them to acknowledge that she's stuck and she found a way out, but she's not trying to tell them they're stuck, she's just figured out that she's stuck and is able to articulate incredibly clearly how she's stuck and why she's stuck. Can she possibly create a space for the people in her community to go, well, shit, if you're stuck and I do what you do you think I might be stuck? The discovery process. Why? Because people like Elvira. And so people like Elvira, and Elvira's willing to own the fact that she's stuck. Not that she's dumb, not that she doesn't love her family, not that she doesn't work hard, not that she's not committed, but she can only do what she can do. And what she can do, she can model what she saw. If Elvira's And I know this, but if Elvira's parents were bloody racist, like hardcore, how many think there's a good chance Elvira has some racist thoughts? Now she has one of two things. She can either lean into it and be as hardcore as her parents, or fight against it. But guess what? Even if she fights against it, the thoughts are there, but the actions aren't. A couple days ago, I'm going to share another. I was at the table, and my dad was a tough guy. I mean, I wouldn't consider, I mean, whatever. But I'm at the table, and I used to mess around as a kid, and Ty, I'm sitting at dinner, we're sitting at dinner, and Ty's being a little bit of a pill, and I was kind of messing around with him, and he got up, he's like, all right, you want to go? He's 11. I remember being 12 years old doing that exact same thing to my dad. My dad hit me so hard. I can feel it today. My dad said, if you're going to stand in front of another man and say that, you better be ready to go. If you're not ready to go, don't say it. It's 12 years. Today, the police would have come. I don't think they'd have filed charges, but I'm not sure. That's a true story. It wasn't child abuse in 1980. It was teaching. I'm sitting at the table. My son does this. My hand comes about half an inch off the table. Instinctually about to deck my chin. There was no thought. I stopped. I went. I turned white. I was clammy. Robinson, she's like, you all right? I said, I almost put this kid into the ground. Because he was bugging me too. It was like one of those moments where not only was there the metaphor in the lesson, but then I was pissed too. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to enjoy this too much. Like this was an unhealthy place for me. I don't know if I'm supposed to share this. I didn't. That's probably why I'm sharing it. But in almost any other house in America, the dad wouldn't have even thought about it. The dad wouldn't have even thought about it. I had to fight it. Because all I wanted to do in that moment was to deck my 11-year-old son, who's 80 pounds, and say, if you're ever going to stand up against a man, you better be ready to fall. I don't care who it is. If not, don't do it. Because it was a very valuable lesson. I realized that you could actually teach the lesson without the beating, though. This was an important process. We had the conversation. I don't know if it had the same impact. We'll see. He might get his ass kicked at 17. I never got no fight. I didn't win. Predominantly because I got into fights with guys I shouldn't have fought, but I knew I was fighting the moment I stood up. You ever watch guys like they're getting, all of a sudden they're like, they stand and then they don't actually know they're getting in a fight and they get their ass kicked only because like they didn't know? They were stuck and didn't know it. I was like, oh, if I'm standing, I'm going, man. I had to fight something I didn't even know I had to fight. You could have asked me that 2 weeks ago. I would have said, I would never. It was there. It's there. It's there. We isolate in chaos. When the world falls apart, we don't want to get embarrassed. We want to validate. We want to be the smartest person in the room. We want to be the one that figures it out. We want to be able to take care of our family by being strong. It's there. You know what we need to be able to do is be able to tell a lot of those stories to the people in our lives consistently. So Elvira doesn't have to tell the story once. She gets to live the next 10 years. of this transformation from Main Street thinking to the wealthy thinking. And as this metamorphosis in her life starts to change, because all of a sudden when failure occurs, instead of looking at it as a failure and having to get the actions and the focus to go do it, she gets to lock in those advances, learn what she learns, and build on it and communicate it and get strength from it. She gets really good at her scouting report, being able to talk about where she is and where she was, and then she can articulate the steps she took from where she is to from where she was to where she is, so she can pinpoint the growth, so she can highlight weakness, because where you were was weakness compared to where you are, because you're better now. Well, y'all understand the sense of if you're better now than you were worse then? But none of us want to acknowledge that we were worse then. We just want to acknowledge that we're better now. But you can't acknowledge you're better now without owning that you're worse then. Well, you can. But people who know it know that you're scared of it. But if you can go from where you were to where you are on purpose, you can go from where you are to where you want to go on purpose. And so now when things get tough, they don't have to get tough because you know exactly the steps that you're going to take. And so now when opportunity presents itself, instead of feeling bad or hunkering down, you're in a position to take advantage of it. If you don't know how to do it all, right, David Camacho, I said you're going to have this conversation with X. What's the most important thing you do the moment you're done with this conversation? Was why? Because I'm the expert. And so you're going to develop the habit of leveraging the expert and debriefing in the conversation. Why? Because if you come to me like, dude, I totally crushed it, man. I did this, I did this, I did this. High five me. You're an idiot. And it happens all the time. Not for you, just in general. Because we want to feel good about what we did. My job is to celebrate what you did. Attaboy, here's a cookie. You want to get rich? Let's get the skills down. Cindy, you sent me an email. It was unbelievable. I cried. I got a tear in my eye, the email you sent me. Seek direction. Welcome correction. Apply with purpose. Brett, you jumped on us a bit on a conversation and we needed it. You're right. We're going to make a change. It's unbelievable what's happening in this room. Here's the problem. 70 million families are stuck. The solution is access, but we have to be able to deliver that access to a group of people in a way that they can hear it. And then once we deliver it, this isn't a self-improvement program. Right? Everyone in the room can go to Tony Robbins. Walk on coals. Go back to your job.
Show me, Tony.
Nothing changes. You can't do anything with it. I'm positive. Great. How are you going to make changes? No idea. There's no practical application for a change. We got gaps, part-timers to full-timers, and team owners. We got term insurance, mutual funds, managed accounts, financial needs analysis. Primerica provides access to the education and tools for the financial products and the opportunities to be able to apply these principles at different points in our life to be able to fundamentally change where we are and where our community is. The only way that we can solve this problem in this country is through a strategic partnership model, because then we need a back office to sustain us, because our part-timers and our gaps and the people learning have no idea how to do the administration. And if we put that responsibility on them, they will drop the ball. These clients will not be with us 30 years from now. But if we institutionalize the back office support so that's done, we institutionalize the leverage. So what do we need to do? We need to be able to build our support system and leverage our partners. You know, but this sounds really familiar. Like, have we had this conversation before? Like, it sounds really, like, I feel like we know this. The difference between knowing this piece of paper and knowing this piece of paper is the difference between you being able to have an impact and being able to say, oh, I know that piece of paper. Because this is all we're talking about so far, right? So, makes me smile. They both have mine. So, the question becomes, right? Wendy, Tony, when you guys drive home, Get good at explaining. Guys, this conversation is it. It's not the end, it's the beginning. When you understand what we're doing, you get to make different choices. So David Camacho, are you building a business that's going to distribute Primerica products?
No.
What are you building?
It's a partnership.
Close. You're building a distribution company, aren't you? Because we need to distribute.
That's right.
But what are we distributing?
Ourselves.
What's that?
Solution.
What solution?
To go for that. There's nothing. Obviously, it's-
Access to what? This is really important, guys. We're providing access to this. Is someone going to buy Primerica term insurance and mutual funds if they focus on starting over financially with their life? Are they going to develop mutual funds if the actions is the most important thing? Are they going to create managed accounts? Are they going to leverage their strategic partner? We're building a distribution company to help close this gap. And we're going to leverage our partner, our financial services product provider, to facilitate the tangible where there's a need. I think that's not on a bumper sticker, but that's the mindset. You're building your company. You're the value. This meeting's the value. Now, I love the fact that we have a partnership with Primerica. I love their products. I love the focus. I love that I don't have to question the intensity and the integrity. But if we talked about Primerica at all today,
Just like they're our partner.
just that they're our partner. If we were building a financial services, a distribution company for distributing Primerica products, wouldn't we have to spend all of our time on Primerica products? And how do I sell this? How do I sell the iPhone versus the Android?
It's just a piece. It's an important piece, but it's just a piece.
It's a piece.
We're the most
You're the most important.
important brand.
You are so the cleaner you get at this, the more the conversations make sense. Now watch this. I'm a pretty simple guy. As you get better at explaining the problem and the solution to the people in your life, how much easier is it for them to process what the problem is? As they process what the problem is, is it easier for them to look for a solution? As you provide the solution in a way that they can understand it and digest it, what's the likelihood that they're able to accept the solution as a viable solution to a problem they didn't know they have, and now they recognize they have? Once they accept that there's a problem and there's a need for a solution, what's the likelihood of them allowing you to provide access to the tools to solve that problem? When they provide access to that problem, they realize that they might not be making the money they need to be making, or they're stuck, or it's a 2 to 3 generation plan, and some of them might want it sooner, and now all of a sudden they might be looking for an alternative to speed up this process. They then have a conversation with you because you've already introduced the problem and the solution and access to a legitimate opportunity to change it on step 1, and you can provide options in step 2. What's the likelihood that they're at least open to hearing you for step 2? You've now recruited someone on your team. You now have you and someone else that can tell the problem. You both get better at telling the problem and the solution, and they run it again. Now you have 4 people on your team. Then you got 8 people on your team. Then you got 20 people on your team. Why? Because you are the answer to solving this problem. You are what Farmers doesn't have. What America or AAIG doesn't have. Whatever Jones doesn't have. It's you. And guys, you being here and learning to move and moving on purpose is a modeling opportunity to be able to explain, I get it, I'm working on moving out of this. I was there, I was stuck and didn't know it. I did this, I did this, I did this to get me to recognize that I was stuck. I did this, I did this, I did this to create a path. I still get stuck a bunch of times, but I developed a habit of celebrating when I get stuck. The single most important habit that I developed in the first X amount of life in this is I developed the habit of celebrating when I got stuck. Why, Tony, would you celebrate when you recognize that you got stuck back there? Why would that ever make any sense? So that doesn't make any sense, does it? To celebrate when you went backwards?
You're recognizing it.
Why is that important?
So you can fix it, get out of that, turn it around.
Can you fix it before you recognize it?
No,
If recognizing it is painful, will you recognize it? If recognition is painful, if acknowledging that you recognized it is failure,
it depends on what.
correct. But as an overall approach, then just think about the way this is thought about for a second. If recognizing that you went backwards is going backwards, do any of us feel good about going backwards? If the sense is, I effed up again, is that a pleasurable experience? So, if it's unpleasurable to acknowledge that you went backwards, what's the likelihood of you acknowledging that you went backwards early in the process? If it's painful. Look, how many of us have ever put on a couple more pounds than we wanted? How many of us have ever known that we were probably not eating as well as we needed to, and we at some point are going to switch it, but not today? And so, like, we know we shouldn't do this, but we haven't decided to fix it yet, so we're going to order a double cheeseburger. We're going to get a third piece of pizza. We're going to make 3 banana bread loaves. Which is what I just did. All right, Jim. Happy Father's Day. So even though we know we shouldn't necessarily eat this, we haven't made the decision to fix it yet. So, am I the only one that's ever done this? Yes or no? Okay. Same process. But if we can celebrate the strength of figuring this out, and we can get good at explaining it as strength, when weakness can become strength, we don't have to be scared of it.
And that's where we can support someone that realizes that and say, it's okay, we can go forward, we can learn from this and go forward.
I would take it a step further from it's okay. I would say that's freaking amazing. Because recognizing it is actually as powerful as not going backwards. Because we're going to go backwards. So if we get really good at recognizing it and being able to articulate it, not only do we get to get ourselves out. Well, what business are we in? What are we trying to do? We're trying to get people unstuck, right? So we're going to work with people who are stuck. And so they have the habit of being stuck. And so when we introduce a change, they're going to try to make the change. But what's the likelihood of them going backwards? What's the likelihood? Like 100%? If you never go backwards and they go backwards, can you relate with them? If you're like, if you made it through here on one and you're like, this is amazing. And they're like, this sucks. Can you help them? But if you're like, all right, let's go. It's a battle, and you're fighting and pull back and fighting and pull back, and you get language as to when you got stuck and how you got unstuck, and you get to tell this story, and you get to walk through this process. Now when you have people on your team, it's not a problem that they went backwards. Of course they're going to go backwards. We're going to celebrate when you go backwards, because as soon as you articulate it, you're no longer backwards. So the moment we can celebrate you went backwards, we can get back here, and it's okay that you went backwards because your people are going to go backwards. So it's not just, it's fine, it's awesome! Because that's what gives us the ability to get out. And when we have a collective group of people on a mission to get out, they get to bring more people with them because you are the key to that. I think this is recorded. Some of you might want to watch this multiple times. There's a lot here.
Listen to today's video.
When this snaps, it'll snap. The way you're going to become an entrepreneur is understanding this page. If you don't understand this page, you'll get into financial services. And guess what? Sometimes you're going to get sucked back into financial services even when you're on this page. There's nothing wrong with it. You're going to change hundreds and thousands of people's lives. If they're stuck because they're here, we better get good at explaining where they are and where they can be and what the differences are and apply it to our lives so we can get them through. If we don't want to do this, this is not the office or business. And I'm okay with that too. I don't want to be in financial services. I've never wanted to be in financial services, ever. I love being an impact. To know that there's a 21-year-old couple here that they fundamentally dedicate the next 10 years of their lives developing these habits and being able to articulate it and being able to celebrate their lack as strength and where they get stuck and where this process and be able to surround and create the impact on their family and their people around them. Unbelievable the impact that they're going to have. The impact we can have on our kids. The people we can have on our church. The impact we can have on our jobs. So, we have a meeting on Wednesday. We can get some people in this room that are stuck and give them an opportunity to understand that they don't got it. Now, let me make sure this is clear before we go. This is not a meeting that you have with someone that you just met. This is a you and me conversation. Right? This is a you and you conversation. You and Arturo, right? Break this down with him for him to start understanding. Get good at explaining this. Right? You're on the phone with Tony trying to explain this. Get good. Right? We want to get clear with this message. We know what the problem is. Pretty clear about that, aren't we? We know what the solution is. Pretty clear about that, aren't we? We got to get clear on the strategic partnership and what it is and our role and our value. Because this circle is the only reason that we can actually deliver the access that we're talking about. You are the most important part of this. Now we have to learn how to master by leveraging the others, but we've got to grow ours. So when you realize what the industry is doing, hopefully this gives you the full fuel to be able to realize that this is real. Happy Father's Day. Enjoy. We will see everybody on Wednesday. Love you guys. Thank you very, very much.